Hello and welcome to the DOGE News Channel. My name is Chris. In this video, we're going to react to the USAID story. It's a big story. There's a lot to cover. We're just going to kind of touch on an overview of it. We're also going to look at a White House statement on what they have to say about the USAID, and we'll look at the USAID website. So let's get going.
President Trump and Elon Musk are moving forward to make significant changes to the U.S. Agency for International Development, and critics are arguing USAID has become a slush fund wasting taxpayer money. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt gave a blistering account of the agency's absurd spending yesterday.
Here's the reason why Elon Musk and others have been taking a look, because if you look at the waste and abuse that has run through USAID over the past several years, these are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap, and I know the American people don't either, and that's exactly what Elon Musk has been tasked by President Trump to do, to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government.
Man, I like her. She is refreshing. She is sharp. She has her information. She communicates really well, much better than the clown show from the previous administration. What do you think about that list of items that USAID has been supporting? A bunch of this transgender stuff all over the world in different countries. I don't even think these countries want this stuff, but I bet the U.S. is kind of pushing it on them. Let's find out more.
Wow. I hope they were taking notes. Now we're learning more about Elon Musk's small army to cut the wasteful spending. These young engineers were reportedly handpicked by Elon Musk, and the oldest is just 25 years old, and some of them are reportedly still in college. Joey, I took
The Whiz Kids. Man, I'm excited to learn more about them.
notes. $1.5 million to advance the DEI in Serbia's workforces.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, USAID.
So I have an anecdote for you. I have a friend, she texted me a few hours ago, unsolicited, didn't know I was on the show today. She said, I've been a contractor, subcontractor for USAID for 30 years. She said, I've been saying for a long time to my friends and family that it's a wasteful agency. We've done some of the stupidest projects you can ever imagine. Although it's now putting me partially out of business, it's a good thing, and that's what I voted for. That's from somebody who has been a contractor, subcontractor, who has firsthand experience for 3 decades. I think it was Harold Ford yesterday on the 5 said, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Well, sometimes that's exactly what you need to do. Sometimes you need to hit delete and then start over again. Because the people that are working in that agency, they were approving these things. So that's a part of their ethos. And if they have to go home and not come back to work, that's probably the best thing that should happen.
Rebecca.
I have a couple questions about this friend of his that was taking all this money from the USAID and had these contracts and subcontracts from them. And now she's like, I'm glad this is being exposed because it's a corrupt organization. What does that say about you when you were taking the money as a contractor or a subcontractor? Apparently you're okay with that, but it is interesting that this person had that perspective that she was like, you know what, that's what I voted for. I wanted this agency to go away. I wanted this corruption to go away. So it's kind of this catch-22. It sounds like she was happy accepting the money and doing the contract work, but at the same time thought that where the money was going was not a good thing. So it's really interesting.
Well, listen, it not only is it waste, but a lot of times, a lot of this stuff aggravates our allies and partners. It's ideologically controversial, so it's pushing things like abortion on conservative countries or the LGBTQ issue or climate ideology, and it aggravates our partners and allies. Of course, it aggravates a lot of Americans as well, and sometimes violates the consciences of Americans. Don't even want our taxpayer dollars to go to these things. But I think the larger point is USAID was never meant to be purely charity, purely altruism. It's supposed to align with American foreign policy objectives and make sure that we have countries that are siding with the United States against our adversaries. Last point, recently went to a trip to India. India, conservative country. We want to partner with India to counter China. The Indian officials I talked to said they were irritated by the progressive policies that the Biden administration foisted on them. It hurt our relationship with India.
Yeah,
That's a really interesting point. You know, a lot of these other countries are a lot more conservative than we are here in America. And they think that we're spending this money on crazy things, and they don't actually want the money to be spent on these programs, these pride parades, these comic books, these transgender programs. They don't want the money to be spent on that in their country, but the U.S. kind of forces it on them. Let's check out this post on X that talks about that. Okay, so here's this post by Mike Benz. He seems to be popping up like an expert in the USAID. He's got a lot of information. I saw him actually on Tucker Carlson recently, and he's been on all sorts of programs, and he has a lot of background information. But here he says on February 5th, just curious, has a single foreign head of state called President Trump this week and told him, no, please don't take USAID out of our country. He follows up with that. The people inflamed at closing USAID seem to be the NGOs and private sector grantees with a vested interest in U.S. aid operations. The people very weirdly not inflamed at closing USAID are the leaders of countries those NGOs and private sector grantees are paid supposedly to help. And Musk responds to that as well. Here he says, doesn't it seem odd that none of the supposed beneficiaries of U.S. aid are complaining, just the government-funded NGOs? Yes, it does seem odd. Let's go back to the video.
I wonder how Serbia's workforces would feel about all that DEI. I'm sure they don't turn down the money, 1.5 million. But to your point, I mean, that's not in alignment maybe with some countries. I don't know about Serbia.
Yeah, look, this is the best 3 examples I've seen for the problems at USAID. I just want to highlight it. Emma Colton, FoxNews.com. Everyone read this. Number 1, Tom Cotton sends a letter October of 2023 to Samantha Power, who's administering USAID, and says, I have credible evidence that Hamas terrorists have received U.S. aid. Now, USAID denies that. Tom Cotton, however, not known for throwing random things to the wind. Number 2, Syrian National gets $9 million to Al-Nusra Front. Newsflash, Al-Nusra Front is a terrorist organization. Number 3, money gets to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Let's put a cherry on top. A Soros group is who Samantha Powers chooses to meet with several times during the administration. Those are the problems. And just to address the point, because there's this
Samantha Powers is the person that was running the USAID.
Viral story about AIDS and PEPFAR and that not getting to children. Everyone wants to see African children helped. Everyone wants to see PEPFAR continue. Secretary Rubio addressed this just now in a press conference flagged for me by the State Department. Quote, we have issued a blanket waiver. If the program saves lives, they have a waiver. Straight from the Secretary of State.
All right, there you go. Emily.
And that is the tip of the iceberg for us funding terrorism, by the way. And yes, not only was it not supposed to be totally dependent, but also it wasn't supposed to be permanent. And self-reported from USAID, 4 out of 10 projects are not complete, are not fulfilled, objectives failed. That's self-reported. And that was in just 1 year, by the way, 2016 to 2017. So the whole point is we are funding failed projects that don't align with our values, that are funding actual terrorism, and is also in a time when we need to be focusing on ourselves. For a nation that's $3.5 trillion in debt, why in the heck are we spending so much money for developing nations on projects on these superfluous priorities when Americans are drowning right now? And frankly, the notion that people are horrified by this, we talked about, there's a triage that needs to occur. So maybe in the future we'll revisit. Maybe in the future, DEI in the workplace in Colombia, okay, fine. But for right now, why don't you guys just take a pause? Because the concept that these other nations rely on unequivocally American handout for salaries or for benefits doesn't sit right with us. Why shouldn't we shore up the walls, fix the broken windows, and then look toward the community garden in someone else's town? It doesn't make any sense to prioritize
What you're
this
saying
still.
is so fair, too. I didn't think of it as triage. I was just thinking audit. But it's so bad now, it's probably going to feel like a disaster to go through and figure out where all the money is going. And I loved what you said. I mean, there will be some carve-outs. Former Senator Rubio, Secretary of State Rubio now, is looking for opportunities to do that. I mean, we do want to be good citizens in the world. We're the greatest country. Of course we do. But to your point, I mean, triage, audit, whatever you want to call it, we got to do it.
I mean, the U.S., we are good citizens in the world, but that doesn't have to go through a corrupt organization like USAID. We have thousands, hundreds of thousands of charities that support countries all over the world and do amazing things. That's what the charities are for. This should not go through some government-funded program or organization like USAID. They're obviously corrupt. Of course, charities are corrupt as well, or some are corrupt. However, at least charities can be audited. We can choose as Americans which charities to give our money to. Instead, with the USAID, it's just our taxpayer money that is supporting all these programs that we can't even choose which programs they support, right? They're making the choices. They're giving our billions of tax dollars, and they are making the decision on who gets that money and who doesn't. I would rather give my money to a charity that I am behind, that I vetted, that I believe in the cause, and let them do the good work that they do. Americans are the most charitable people in all of the world, and just let us do that. Stop taking our taxpayer money and spending it in ways that we don't agree with. Okay, now let's see if we can find the USAID website. Okay, so when I search for the USAID.gov website, I'm getting a blank page. There's nothing on here at all, and I'm seeing others that are getting the same page on X as well. So they've shut down the entire website apparently. Now, if you just Google USAID.gov, you do get some information here. Let's see, on Friday, February 7th, all USAID direct hire personnel will be placed on administrative leave. But let's go ahead and click on that and see if there's more information there. Nope, it gives you a blank page as well. So I'm going to go to the X post that talks more about what that said. Okay, here we have an X post from Taylor Giorno. USAID.gov, which has been dark since Saturday with no explanation, is back online for the first time in days. Well, as of recording this video, it is back offline, but this is what it said at the time. On Friday, February 7th, 2025, all USAID direct hire personnel will be placed on administrative leave globally, with the exception of designated personnel responsible for mission-critical functions, core leadership, and specifically designated programs. Essential personnel expected to continue working will be informed by the agency leadership by Thursday, February 6th at 3 p.m. For USAID personnel currently posted outside the United States, the agency, in coordination with missions and the Department of State, is currently preparing a plan in accordance with all applicable requirements and laws, under which the agency would arrange and pay for return travel to the U.S. within 30 days and provide for the termination of PSC and ISC contracts that are not determined to be essential. The agency will consider case-by-case exceptions and return travel extensions based on personal or family hardship, mobility, or safety concerns or other reasons. For example, the agency will consider exceptions based on the timing of dependent school term, personal or familial medical needs, pregnancy, or other reasons. Further guidance on how to request an exception will be forthcoming. Thank you for your service. And that's it. And then here's another post on X. Breaking signs outside of the USAID are being removed, showing that the office may be closed down. Let's check out this short little video here. U.S. agency. Yeah, they're taking down the words international development. It looks like part of the sign has been covered up. Wow. And finally, let's go ahead and see what the White House has to say about the USAID. Okay, here we have a fact sheet at USAID. Waste and abuse runs deep on February 3rd, 2025. For decades, the United States Agency for International Development, the USAID, has been unaccountable to taxpayers as it funnels massive sums of money to the ridiculous and, in many cases, malicious pet projects of the entrenched bureaucrats with next to no oversight. Here are only a few examples of the waste and abuse. $1.5 million to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in Siberia's workplaces and business communities. $70,000 for production of a DEI musical in Ireland. $2.5 million for electric vehicles for Vietnam. $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia. $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. $2 million for sex changes and LGBT activism in Guatemala, $6 million to fund tourism in Egypt, hundreds of thousands of dollars for nonprofit linked to designated terrorist organizations even after an inspector general launched an investigation. Millions to EcoHealth Alliance, which was involved in research at the Wuhan lab. Hundreds of thousands of meals that went to Al-Qaeda-affiliated fighters in Syria? Really? Funding to print personalized contraceptives, birth control devices in developing countries. What? Personalized? Here's some contraceptives with your names on them. Hundreds of millions of dollars to fund irrigation canals, farming equipment, and even fertilizer used to support the unprecedented poppy cultivation and heroin production in Afghanistan, benefiting the Taliban. So here we are giving them money so they can produce heroin. What? The list literally goes on, and it has all been happening for decades. Under President Trump, the waste, fraud, and abuse ends now. I'm going to click in on this one of these right here, and you guys can go ahead and go to the website. I will have a link below if you want to check this out and click in on some of these. But I'm curious about this $2.5 million for electric vehicles in Vietnam. So it takes you to the Daily Mail. Let's see if we can find that picture. I thought I saw a picture down here. Man, there's a ton of ads on this thing, isn't there? So here we have a picture right here, and it says Biden's administration awarded $2.5 million for electric vehicles for Vietnam. As of December 2024, the effort has saved 260 gallons of gas, the same amount of gas held by 2 average semi-trucks. So we spent $2.5 million, and so far we've saved 260 gallons of gas. Wow. What a return on our money. Wow, the USAID story is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. There's more information. I'm going to do more videos on this, more videos on the corruption. It just seems to be growing more and more and more. And I think we're going to be shocked at how deep this goes. I've seen stories already online. I don't know if they're true or not, but about like Chelsea Clinton getting like $80 million, something like that. I don't know if that's true or not, but we're going to be diving more into that to find out. I'm sure more and more corruption is going to come out of this USAID. It's really going to be interesting to see what we learn. But yeah, I know that corruption goes deep. Let me know what you guys think about the USAID. Are you concerned that shutting it off so quickly is going to hurt children in Africa that are suffering from the AIDS epidemic? Or do you just want to shut it off completely and then look at each individual program and determine whether or not it should be funded? That's kind of my look at it. Let's just shut it all down. And then, as Rubio said, look at every single program, and if the program has merit and is actually producing results, then of course continue the funding. But everything else, shut it down. It doesn't make any sense to be wasting our money on this crap. So anyways, if you're interested in following the DOGE story like I am, this is really interesting to me, you're going to want to make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. If you do want to watch more DOGE videos, I do have a playlist right here. Go ahead and check that out. Also, if you want to subscribe, you can click on the button right up there. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.